should feel over and over in my mind's eye. I'm letting go the regrets of the life that's passed me by. Looking to the future and I find that I have nothing more to say. And when you leave, there'll be nothing more. That I have nothing more to say. And when you leave, there'll be nothing more. Open your eyes, look around before you rest around. I have nothing more to say, and when you leave, there'll be nothing more. And I have nothing more to say, and when you leave, there'll be nothing more. Open your eyes, damn it, look around before you rest around. Open your eyes, damn it, look around before you rest around.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rock Pile Report podcast. I am your host, Bill Season Ticket Holder.
Oh,
Didn't get me that
geez.
time, Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And we are back from a 1 week hiatus, folks. It feels good to be sitting in this chair again. Hugo Carmona's in the chat. Guys, we are live in Europe. What a time to be here, right?
I can't not do this.
Hugo Carmona
Yeah.
goes, do you guys have to pay tariffs for my posts now? Damn it.
Sounds reasonable. I can't not do this. Like, we were off for a week, and I'm like, God, this sucks. 14 days off with no podcast, but we're gonna be doing this. Like, this is our retirement.
Yeah.
We're still gonna do this at 65. We better.
Except I'll be talking about, in fact, we're going to be talking about kids down the street. I'm going to be talking about neighborhood politics that I'm not a part of. That I just, like, most of them, like, hey, there was another neighborhood meeting. They're talking about me again. How to deal with that gear guy on the corner. Guys, it feels good to be back in this chair. It feels good to be talking to you. It feels good to be talking about football and the Buffalo Bills.
Well, do you know what today is?
No.
I don't know if you got the notification for it, but I got it. I'll have to. I'll pull it up on my on my phone because it's a very important day for you and me. If you didn't know, but if I go to Facebook and click on memories, it says right here, 13 years ago you became friends with Drew Gear on Facebook. 13 years ago today.
13 years ago today, Chris Kruger made one of the biggest mistakes of his entire life, which was deciding to go to a bar and hang out with his then girlfriend's best friend's idiot boyfriend. And he got to watch me throw a chair across the bar in celebration of a touchdown for a team that I don't even really root for.
You just like sports.
I just like sports, man. When I'm in, I'm in. And when I'm on, I'm on. And tonight, I am on one. I got to pour one out, first of all. Pour one out. First and foremost, Val Kilmer. The passing of Val Kilmer. Chris?
Oh, yeah, he died. I forgot about that.
I'm going to take a glass of Ryan Rhodes Ironweed Empire Rye Whiskey. Raise a glass.
I got my old fashioned.
To Iceman. To Iceman, to Doc Holliday, to one of the greatest swordsmen in the entire world, if you've ever watched Willow.
Or Top Secret, his best movie.
Top Secret. Guys, pour one up for Val Kilmer. Also, to the death of facial hair. If you guys notice the mustache, Chris, if you want to give me my single, it's gone. The old mustache had to be retired. And I will say this, it died as stupidly as it was like coalesced. For me to come up with the idea to start growing the mustache in the first place, it was more born out of the conversation about midlife crisis and how it's literally one of the only things that I have. Like, I could die tomorrow. My bucket list is already real short. I grew the mustache as kind of a last hurrah. So just as stupid as that thought was, I'm sitting at dinner and we're talking. And
Applebee's?
No, in the kitchen. And afterwards, we're kind of hanging around after you're done eating. And one of my sons made a comment about how, yeah, but Daddy can't do, he calls them hand farts. He goes, when you put your hands like this, he goes, Daddy can't do good hand farts anymore. He's got a mustache now. And he's right. You can't get a good seal against the face to really do it with authority once you've got facial hair. And hearing in my son's voice just like a hint of disappointment when he was like, Dad can't do good hand farts anymore.
Hugo wanted it waxed off live.
It broke me. And that sat in my head, Chris, while we finished dinner. And then we're sitting there watching TV and I'm working on podcast stuff. Larissa's falling asleep next to me and just like, it just kept kicking around my head. And finally I just got up apropos of nothing, went upstairs and trimmed the whole fucking thing off. It was just the death of a mustache was the disappointment on my child's face when he was telling my other son, no, Dad can't do good hand farts anymore. This is what fatherhood is, everybody. Like, this is it. I think that's the pinnacle of being dad, is when you're willing to put like that nonsense that makes your kid happy above some stupid social experiment that is facial hair for the first time in 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, I'm a big dumb animal. Hugo, funny thing about having it waxed off, I got drunk and let my friends wax my back once. I have back hair like a gorilla. I actually, when I was younger, as a Christmas gift, my mom got me a thing called the Man Groomer. It's basically a razor on an extending stick, like an electric razor.
Is that an infomercial buy?
Yes. And you charge it and then you use it to shave, like trim your back hair. Because I would make her put Nair on me before beach season when I was single. I was like, Mom, you got to Nair my back. She goes, I can't deal with this. You're like a wild animal. You got to get out of here. And so she bought me a razor on a stick. And then as a joke, my friends were like, well, don't do that. Let us wax it. And I'd had enough cocktails that I was like, yeah, get that waxing kit out. Chris almost blacked out. That's how badly it hurt.
Did you yell Kelly Clarkson?
No, it literally, I remember it getting ripped off and just my vision doing that thing where you just like see a bunch of stars and things get swimmy. It was not cool.
That makes sense.
So we're here. Let's talk about enough about my body hair. Let's talk about football. The NFL owners meetings took place this week, and the Buffalo Bills were in so many ways involved in a giant part of the conversation. Right? Every time that there was a clip came out, they're talking about a rule that changed. The Buffalo Bills had ties to so much of the conversation that was taking place. A lot of newsworthy stuff came out of this meeting. First of all, Chris, raise a glass. Once again, we have to toast. Mark Davis is no longer the poorest owner in the NFL. Woo! Cheers. That's right, folks. Mark Davis, who at one point in his life was only worth $500 million, has climbed the ladders. I mean, we've been busting this guy's balls for years about he would show up to these owners meetings and they would give him the squeaky chair or the one that like clearly was broken and it listed to one side. We used to talk about how we used to have to bum the good cigars off Steve Biscotti and ask Robert Kraft if he knew where he could find a discount R&T. The old R&T. But Vegas is treating him very well. He's I don't know what's worse, Chris. The fact that he's climbed the ranks and that Mark Davis is now the 23rd wealthiest owner. Like, cool, you used to be broke, but you still cut your hair like that on purpose. Like, I used to think you did it because you were poor.
I think he made a haircut change in the middle of last season.
See? This is what happens when you get money, right? He all of a sudden realized, like, Chris, it was like the day that you
tell me he upgraded from gray clips to sport clips?
I remember the day you started wearing, like, boots instead of sneakers. and you started wearing chinos instead of jeans, I remember that day because I go, what the fuck is wrong with Chris? What happened to him?
I've always worn khakis.
It was funny watching you, like, what do they call that? Get a glow up, I think is what the kids call it.
That's my MO for like breakups. I would break up with or get dumped. Most of the time it was me getting dumped, and then you would just make a fashion change. One of those was going from khakis to jeans, and then another one was putting on boots.
Here's what I love. Mark Davis, if I read this article, Mark Davis has worked exclusively for the Raiders throughout his adult life, including stints in the equipment department and retail sales. If you remember his old bullshit haircut, if I walked into if I walked into the Bills store and I saw a guy standing there with that haircut that Mark Davis used to walk around with, I'd go, no, you look like you belong here. You look like you deserve to be working, making minimum wage. It's just funny to me. Like, now you look at him, he's on the rise as an NFL owner, Mark Davis. Meanwhile, in something, not to kind of to tease it, I've got a upcoming podcast where we talk about the financial situation of the Pagulas and the stadium progress and the PSL stuff. You've got Mark Davis, who's, moving up like the Jeffersons, and then you've got Terry Pagula, who's on his way to good times. But it's not a dynamite. It's not dynamite. Terry Pagula is actually falling down the ranks of the NFL's wealthiest owners, which is a whole dynamic unto itself that I can't wait to unpack on a future podcast that you're going to hear right here on this network. With that said, there was also a whole slew of rule changes that took place. And like I said, a lot of them, like we're going to be talking about the finer points of a lot of them ad nauseum this offseason as it relates to direct competition and roster spots. But it's interesting that so many of them have a direct linkage to, or at least impact on, the Buffalo Bills. Chris, electronic measurements for first downs.
Oh, nice.
It's funny to me that this change will bring all of the whiners out of the woodwork. They're going to go, oh, well, the league they change the rules every time the Bills get screwed. No, it's because every time the Bills get screwed, it's on the biggest stage, it's against the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's done in such a way that every single person who watched it happen knows that it's egregious and can agree to a man, hey, we should probably revisit this thing that allowed whatever the hell we just watched take place. Doesn't that make sense, Chris?
Yeah.
Like, when you watched the Bills get ruled short on that fourth down conversion.
Well, there's a handful of plays that they missed in that game against Kansas City where it was a clear first down, and they marked it half a yard short.
You can't do it in front of everybody forever. Terry White in the comments, who's the poorest owner? Fun fact, the poorest team is the Green Bay Packers, but that's because they're owned by a city. They're not owned by an individual person, so there's no net worth attached to it, which makes it that much funnier that the only person who's not as poor as a whole city full of people like me and Chris is Mike Brown, the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals. The guy, like, when you see that and you realize that Mike Brown and the Cincinnati Bengals are, like, when people make jokes about poverty franchises on social media, the Bengals are an actual poverty franchise, and they just shelled out the most money to a wide receiver duo in NFL history. And then you wonder why they're over here playing hardball with Trey Hendrickson. Their EVP is out here on making public statements about how, well, it's about the player, and, we think we've made him a fair offer, and sometimes that player just has to accept that's what it is. No, they don't, idiot. That's why your franchise is what it is. That player knows exactly what he's worth. Teams know what he's worth, and what they're going to do is wait you out. You will have to make a choice as the Cincinnati Bengals. You're either going to pay him or he's not going to play for you, and you're going to have to send him to someone who will. It's so funny. But anyways, the electronic measurement to me is amazing in the sense that it took the Bills getting screwed over in the biggest game in the AFC this season for everyone to collectively go, all right, I don't want to be next. I don't want my team to get to this point and have this many things go so wrong that my team ultimately gets screwed in the biggest game, like the penultimate game of the season. Also, I did find it interesting that they failed to ban the tush push after all of the conjecture about it. Chris, that was a talking point on every single local radio had at least 2 bits a week about the tush push and would it or won't it get banned and why it's bad, why it might be good. You know, Sean McDermott had some really weird positioning on that, right? Like being on the competition committee, but being in favor of banning something that directly benefits his football team is weird energy. Other than it might underscore that Sean McDermott might be one of the most, like, he and Brandon Beane might get along because they share the fact that they're honest to a fault. They tell you what they're thinking. It's our fault for being so used to hearing coaches and GMs kind of lie about their intentions or what it is they think, that when Brandon Beane comes out and says, hey, I'm happy with Spencer Brown and I don't think he needs competition, and we all go, oh, that's a mistake. He means that. He genuinely believes that. When he says, I don't need to go out to market and get another linebacker because I'm confident that someone out of the trio of guys we have, that includes Terrell Bernard, will step forward and be our middle linebacker this year. He means that. He's not bullshitting you. Sean McDermott, when he talks about these things and says, I want players to be as safe as possible. The fact that he's willing to vote in favor of something that's in his, not in his own best interest, almost underscores that he is a purist when it comes to this. And I can respect some of that, can't you?
Yeah, I was having a hard time following of all of the things McDermott was saying at the owners' meetings because he looked like he was trying to get out of there because he was dressed for a Blink-182 show.
Oh, my God. I like Super Mexican in the comments. Do you know that's the second tariff-related comment I've seen in the first 15 minutes we've been doing the show?
Yeah, Teddy's working 12-hour shifts because of tariffs.
Oh, no. Working 12-hour shifts a week.
We're a tariff-heavy show.
Because I'm in the import industry. Oh, yeah, and there's a lot to deal with. Nothing anymore right now than a dozen rock. Listen, I'll tell you what, Teddy. Strap in. The Rock Pile Report is about to record 9 podcasts in the next 11 days. Mm-hmm. We're recording 9 shows in 11 days. Draft season, baby. You gotta love it. So don't worry. There will be plenty of content. And that's just the video piece of it, the piece we do here in the studio. I'm going to have shows that I'm recording in the basement. It's going to be a great time. But so with that said, the failure of the tush push, I think, was widely celebrated by everybody because when you talk to like some of the better coaches in football, I heard some real whiner stuff from a lot of teams. But when you talk to guys like Nick Sirianni, you talk to guys like Vrabel, you talk to coaches around the NFL when they had their chance to talk about the tush push, the thing that they, as coaches who inevitably would run into it in actual practice, all of them were in favor of keeping it because they said, look, you can't ban every single thing just because no one can stop it right now. We will develop a methodology for stopping this. And when we do, it'll die the same way the Wildcat died, Chris. These are gimmicks. And as soon as you figure out how to stop it, the gimmick dies. Like do you remember the Ronnie Brown offense with the Dolphins? And then every team, the Bills had Brad Smith on the roster, and the only reason why was because he could run like a quarterback slash.
It's like a Cordell Stewart.
I could be a Cordell Stewart, not even a poor man, a homeless man's Cordell Stewart is what Brad Smith was. And yet the Bills did it because it was in vogue. But by the time we tried it, everyone had already figured out how to stop it. And it just died on the vine. Just like the drought era Bills, a day late and a dollar short. But so it is funny that the tush push prevailed, and I'm sure you're going to see more of Ty Johnson grabbing 2 cheeks on Josh Allen and just shoving him over the goal line. And I think that that's a good thing for Bills fans everywhere, right?
Yeah, we do have the Eagles as a home game this year, so that'll be fun. Tons of tush pushes.
Can I bet the under or the over on the number of tush pushes in that game? Is that a prop bet that I can... Guys, keep an eye out, and if anyone can figure out how to get that as a prop bet in that game, I want in. Tush pushes out the yang. Chris, moving up the touchback to the 35 to penalize teams who kick a touchback and kick it out of the end zone instead of allowing kick returns. I've heard all the conjecture around this one, but here's something that, when I hear this, it tickles something in my brain. Maybe I'm just being a conspiracy theorist about this.
Let's hear it, Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, I literally would have to pull my shirt off and start yelling and ranting about how the globalists are trying to steal my kickoff for my touchbacks. The globalists are winning when it comes to touchbacks. I can't believe you're all letting this happen. It might make me a conspiracy theorist, but you think about that wonky, disjointed process that took place at the end of the year when it came to the firing of Matthew Smiley. I want to walk back through that now, knowing that the rule on basically the NFL implemented a rule that would force teams, like disincentivize you anyway, to continue just kicking it out of the back of the end zone. And I go back to that disjointed firing process for Matt Smiley. Sean McDermott comes out to a press conference and gives the guy what amounts to a vote of confidence. And we as fans it was reviled. It's just, oh my God, I can't believe he's going to stay status quo after 3 years of deteriorating special teams coverage play. And then a week or two later, just a sharp about face. And he goes out, sends him packing, and brings in a guy who's known for fielding better coverage units. Now, it is likely that, that they wanted Smiley around right up until they knew they could get Chris Tabor. And then they said, oh, wait, Tabor's back in play? Cool. Right? Like, again, trying not to be a conspiracy theorist about this. But also, if you wanted to be a conspiracy theorist about it, your coach is a guy on the competition committee who knows, like, he's privy to all of the initiatives that are going to get brought up and going to get discussed, and also how much momentum those ideas have when they get brought to the table. So, Chris, I can imagine a world where he goes out there in that press conference and goes, I haven't had my exit interview with Matt Smiley yet, but I'm confident that he's going to improve. We're sticking with Matt Smiley for next year. And then he goes and gets a phone call where they're like, hey, Sean, you're not going to like this, but there's more, like, hey, the proposals are on the table. There's a lot of momentum to changing the kickoff rule to force more kick returns and more kick coverage. And Sean McDermott goes, shit. Shit. I just told everybody I liked Smiley, but I don't like Smiley if that's going on. So then they go out. Here's what I think is interesting. I cannot find posted anywhere special teams coordinator salaries. So we know that they pulled Chris Tabor after a year away from football. They pulled him back. Now, he's an older guy. He's been around. He had Chris? He was the.
I thought he was last year. He was with the Panthers.
Well,
somebody can fact check us.
He was the interim head coach.
Call in if you know.
And I believe he was out of football for a year. Probably not by choice. I mean, when you're a coach who's that good. My thing is, I almost feel like maybe they took him an offer he couldn't refuse as soon as they realized, oh no, this thing's going to have legs. We are going to need better coverage units. I have this working theory that Sean McDermott.
Surprising you were right. He was off in 24.
Yes. So I have a feeling that Sean McDermott was really cool with Matt Smiley right up until they realized, oh wait, you're going to force us to do more kick coverage? All right, then I can't have more Matt Smiley. I got to do something. So then what they did was they doubled down and said, I will go get Chris Tabor, and I'll make him an offer that he can't say no to. I'm very interested to know that I can't find out what his salary is, because I'd like to see how highly he's being paid after his hiatus compared to all these other special teams coordinators in the NFL. I'd wager he's being paid a pretty penny. And then also funny from the owners' meetings was the removal of the playoff verbiage, right? Playoff verbiage from the rules surrounding who has to and who can be compelled to participate in Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks is funny. Chris, can you do me a favor? Can you Google the teams that have been on Hard Knocks so far? I have this idea that most of the teams that they put on here on this TV show are compelling and you want to see behind the scenes. But the only reason you want to see behind the scenes is because these teams, they're compelling because they're bad or because they're on the bubble or because they're a team that you think, like when they did the Dolphins that year, The NFL, everyone very much believed the Dolphins were the next it team. Hey, they have Tyreek Hill, they've got Jalen Waddle, they've got Tua, they've got all these tools, and they've got this great offensive mind head coach who has all this scoring ability. It's going to go amazing. We're going to get behind the scenes look at a team that's going to win the division for the first time in the history of Hard Knocks. And instead, what they got to capture was one of those monumental collapses of a football team that was winning on live TV. That team was running away. Chris, they had a 3-game lead on us at one point.
Makes sense.
2.5-game lead. And then that lead shrank. And like Michael Myers in Halloween, we stalked the Dolphins down that year until ultimately it came down to the final game. And in that final game, the Buffalo Bills just gutted one out. We get you get the kick return, the punt return touchdown.
Yeah.
And it just changes the complexion of the entire game. And you get a wonky catch off a helmet in the back of the end zone. Like, this is what a division battle is supposed to be. And the Dolphins were put on Hard Knocks because they thought this was going to be the year we capture a team who overtakes their nemesis. And it didn't happen. Instead, what they got to watch was more failure and more frustration, which is really all Hard Knocks has ever really come away with. Some really good human interest stories, some really embarrassing stuff for certain franchises when your GM and coach aren't savvy. So I hear this idea that the Buffalo Bills might get forced onto Hard Knocks after they've removed the playoff verbiage from the rules. I find that interesting. Chris, if you can swing do you have a list of the teams that have appeared?
Yeah, I'll read it. Hickson Ball in the comments, special teams coordinators range from $400K to just over $1 million.
I'd like to know what table is being paid. Someone find it for me.
We got Ravens in 01, Cowboys 02, 08, 21, Chiefs 07, Bengals 09, 13, Jets 2010 and 23, Miami Dolphins 2012, 23, Dolphins in season, 24, Falcons, Texans, Rams, Bucks, Browns, Raiders, Chargers, Colts did an in-season one, Lions, Cardinals did an in-season, New York Giants off-season. I doubt they're going to do that again. And then Chicago Bears also in 24. So Bills have never been on Hard Knocks.
Not only have they not been on Hard Knocks, how many winning teams, Chris, are wrapped up in that? Most of those franchises are losers at the time they're being portrayed on Hard Knocks. What I love about this is that the Buffalo Bills might give everybody another flavor, and maybe that's the direction Hard Knocks realizes they have to take. I would be more compelled to watch Hard Knocks if I knew that they were going to watch the Buffalo Bills and go, wait a minute, this is how a functional front office runs. Like when they're getting Joe Shane talking about his
kids.
His kid is making better decisions than he is about whether or not to retain a star player. To be a fly on the wall with Brandon Beane, I assume it's more of what Brandon Beane says in front of the public. Like we said, he is honest to a fault. Lauren Oubre, that season with Rex Ryan on the Jets was pure cinema. To watch a team that is buttoned up, has an MVP quarterback, doesn't have a ton of offensive star power, but wins anyway in spite of it because they have a culture, has a solidified head coach, has a GM and coach combination that are in lockstep and understand what a winning team needs. Chris, maybe that's what it takes to revitalize it, because I can't imagine Hard Knocks is as popular as it was when it started, right?
Yeah, I just put in the comments that no team is actively going to throw themselves in the ring to do Hard Knocks.
No.
It's all you're going to be forced.
So then if they came to the Buffalo Bills and said, hey, you guys have to do this, it might be the thing that saves Hard Knocks, because then fans of the NFL could finally see what a functional organization looks like behind the scenes.
What it also is,
dudes
what it's
who
going to
genuinely
do,
just like each other.
What it's going to do,
coaches who work well together. Shocker.
It's going to amplify the garbage plate on Hard Knocks. When they were in Rochester, the garbage plate is going to make a huge comeback.
Jimmy Z's picked the worst time to close. Jimmy Z's picked the worst time to just close down shop.
Trash plates, garbage plates, they're all going to get featured.
Also coming out of these owners' meetings is the James Cook conundrum. You know, they get they get the owners. They have a little, you know, everybody gets their side. I'm just reading through the comments here, trying to catch up, make sure I didn't miss anything hilarious. That's why they made in season 1 for winning teams. Yeah. Rather have the Bills on Hallmark. The fact that Hallmark movies are skewing towards NFL teams is insanity. The NFL must be making so much money off the licensing for that.
They have to be.
Dylan Stickenbricker, Stadenbacher, Chris, I can't say it. I mean, it's like me trying to spell Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Does Steinfeld have a relationship with HBO? She might. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't hurt knowing, hey, we might get Haley Steinfeld in on some of these shots. Areola Grande, which is a name that will always make me laugh. Yeah, just don't give a lot of camera time to James Cook, Benford, or Milano. Those guys are not our TV stars. Listen, Milano might be I'm not going to lie. I'm very comfortable with my sexuality, but Milano is a guy that, like, he's a hunk. That dude is a hunk. And if you put him on TV, you're hitting all the demographics. You got all the guys who go, oh my God, watching him come from depth to attack the line of scrimmage rules. This dude's awesome. His awareness for where the ball is when it's on the ground, like that Lions game, stud. And then you got the women going, God, that hair and those biceps, good Lord. I think Milano is the one you want to give the most screen time to. But you've got the James Cook conundrum.
You shouldn't have been talking shit.
That is the clip, folks, that I immediately thought of. It's what made the thumbnail for tonight's show on YouTube. The idea that as soon as I heard what Brandon Beane had to say at the meetings about the state of negotiations with James Cook, I immediately thought of the Cat Williams bit. Shouldn't have been talking shit then.
You shouldn't have been talking shit.
Now, here's what I'll say. There's nuance to this, right? If you really want to get into it, and I know I'm not the person to try to be I'm not the person who should be screaming, hey, let's pay attention to the nuance, because that's not my speed. What I will say is it is absolutely not wrong for James Cook to want to maximize his potential to make what could be, you know, you heard Christian Benford this week on the radio talking about his extension and how this isn't just life-changing, it's generation-changing money. He goes, this money that I made today by signing this deal is going to change the life of my kids, my future wife. He's like, I don't even have a wife, but my future wife, my children. It's going to change the trajectory of my entire bloodline. And that's what he set out to achieve, and he did it. And that's amazing to see for a person. So it's not wrong for James Cook to want the same thing. I don't begrudge anybody for trying to get theirs, right? You should always strive for that. Especially now, Chris, while the iron is still kind of hot and he's fresh off like his best pro season.
Yeah.
It's also not wrong for Brandon Beane to kind of stick to his plan for cap solvency. Allocate resources and harder to replace positions and ultimately keep the team as competitive for as long as possible. If anybody here I can point to is the bad guy, I'd say it's Cook's agent. Cook's agent not stopping him from his social media tirades. And then, Chris, the newest one, I'm going to sell my house. My house is on the market. I'm sending Buffalo a message. I'm out of here. Chris, in a running back rich draft, do you think that's a good idea?
We go right to a Seagram's bet. James Cook gets traded at the draft.
Ooh.
That's my Seagram's bet to you.
Do you think he will?
I think he will get traded at the draft.
I don't think he will, so you know what? I'll take you on that.
There we go.
Look, I'm looking in the comments. I got to say, though, if the whole put the house up for sale thing is an actual stunt and not just him upgrading to an extra acre in Williamsville, that's toxic as fuck. You're not wrong. And this is part of the conversation. I love saying the name Areola Grande. Like, Areola Grande, that's a really great point.
Well, the idea that James Cook moves to Williamsville there's no way you, like, there are a couple players that live downtown, which is just dumb. Like, if you work in OP, that's where the facility is. game day field, like you wouldn't move out to Williamsville.
No. Also, here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about culture for a minute when it pertains to this James Cook situation. James Cook had an opportunity. Our GM, we've watched him negotiate. We've heard from the mouths of guys like Jordan Phillips, who has left and come back multiple times, has left and come back. The reason that they do it is because they love our GM. Because he's easy to negotiate with. You want to know why? Because he's honest. We talked about Hard Knocks a few minutes ago. Hard Knocks showed you a GM who has no subterfuge to him. When he gets approached by Joe Shane from the Giants and they're at the Senior Bowl and he goes, "Hey, Brandon, you interested in maybe trading up to 9?" And he looked at him deadpan and goes, "Buddy, I don't have enough picks right now. I got to get more. I'm not trying to trade up." And he just went about his business. He's like, "Nope, we're not even having, I like you as a person, but I'm not having this conversation with you because I won't do it. I won't entertain it." He's just that clear cut when it comes to free agents, when it comes to pending free agents, when it comes to guys on the roster who are asking for a new contract. He comes to him and they've, Jordan Phillips kind of pulled up the curtain on this. He said, "Brandon Beane tells you I've got a number. And if you can't get to my number, I completely support you in that. And I want you to go find that. I want you to go find that for yourself, for your family, for yourself. And if you can't, know that you can come back to me and here's my number." But my number ain't changing. And so I'm positive that conversation was had with James Cook. And that's why he took to social media and he's taking the track that he has. And it's interesting when you watch Cook's reaction versus every other player who has signed a contract extension this offseason. Now, what I'll say about culture, first of all, Chris, I want to hit you with, guys, Chris, can you play them the audio from Sean McDermott when he was asked about the James Cook situation?
Well, I hope every player feels wanted. I know that's you never assume that, especially when what you're describing from time to time goes on. And there's, I'm not involved in the nuts and bolts and the details of all that, but it's my job to help them. Hey, look, push through, and it's going to take care of itself. And so that's the best you can do. These are humans, right? And living real lives and they want to. I know one side wants to be rewarded for what they've done. The other side is the business of it, right? So, hopefully at some point that can all meet in the middle and everybody goes on and everybody's happy. That's what you hope and pray for. So James is a good player. He's been really, to me, it's been fun watching him grow on and off the field, and so that'll take care of itself. Right now, when he comes back, and I'm just excited to see him and work with him and help him get better.
There you go. It's from Matt Bove, WKBW, Channel 7 here in Buffalo.
So when I hear a coach talking that plainly about a guy who clearly he has a lot of respect for, and you hear a GM who talks respectfully-ish now, like you listen to but the change in tone from the end of season presser to this one is notable when it comes to the GM. But the coach hasn't changed his attitude. His attitude is, I love this player. I love this guy. He's part of our team. He's part of the culture here. We want him here as long as he wants to be here. And I look forward to this guy being under the tent. Then you think about the culture of what we just watched happen this offseason, where every single pending or future free agent got a contract extension, Chris, that was what anyone would say was below market. It's easy to do when you've cultivated a culture around guys who aren't me guys. It's one thing to say we care about character here in the Buffalo Bills organization. It's one thing to say that we want unselfish football because that's a buzzword that coaches use to say, hey, I want a guy who's going to go out there and kill himself for that extra inch every single week, no matter what he's getting paid. We want gamers. But it also means that we're all here and we're all committed, no matter how much we're making, no matter whether you're a practice squad guy who might get a call up or whether you're a marquee player who's getting paid a premium to do your job. We trust that the people we bring into this building are the right makeup so that none of that matters. All of this is separate from what goes on the field and how we conduct ourselves around this thing. You don't think that Greg Rousseau didn't want generational money? That Christian Benford didn't want that for his family? That Khalil Shakir didn't want to make sure that his mom had a nice place to live and that he could provide for his family both now and in the future? Of course they did. The thing is, when it comes to culture and who buys in and who doesn't, it's hard not to buy in when you have a quarterback. You know, I've heard this talked about where they go, well, it's easy for the Bills to get these done when your quarterback's an MVP. No, it's bigger than that. When you have a quarterback who's an MVP who could hold this franchise's feet to the fire and make him the highest paid player in the NFL ever. And then that guy goes on a radio show a week after signing his contract and he's asked, how come you didn't try to break Dak Prescott's like single season average pay? And his response was, what does $5 more million do for me at this point? I'm happy. My family's happy. I'm got more money than I know what to do with. I just know what I'm worth. And I know that I'm getting paid what it takes for me to go out here and do what I do. I'm getting paid in a way that makes me appreciative and want to go out there and sacrifice every single fiber of my being for this thing. And I'm rewarded for doing so. When you watch that guy make that move, it's not hard to tell the culture of a football team that these guys line up behind him to take below market values. You know, Terrell Bernard taking a contract that puts him kind of upper level of linebacker pay, but in the next year he'll be below market. It's the culture of this team. It's unselfishness. And so when you have that just permeating throughout the building, and you've got guys who are signing below market contracts because they're watching the guy who leads the ship do it. They're saying, if Josh Allen can leave money on the table because he wants to win, I'll leave money on the table because I want to win. And everybody goes around and does it. Chris, it's almost the opposite of what happened with the Patriots. When the Patriots had their dynasty, guys showed up. But they showed up with this expectation of, well, you've got Tom, I'm going to win a Super Bowl, but also I still want to get mine.
Yeah.
The Bills haven't won a Super Bowl, and you've got guys who have been in the building with Josh going, I don't want to go anywhere else but here. Greg Rousseau does not want to play anywhere else but here in Buffalo. Khalil Shakir doesn't want to leave. He's happy being the 30th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, even though he's the most dynamic player on our team from a wide receiver perspective. Respectfully, because they watch the way Josh conducts himself. And do you know why Josh was a good fit here? Because there was a culture, and they identified who fits our culture when they drafted Josh. They said, this is a kid who's hungry and he's humble and he will come in here and work every day. And this farmer mentality has infected the rest of the roster, except for James Cook. And that's okay. I don't listen. I'm one of the worst people you'll ever meet. The dark factor of personality test score that I had, Chris, we'll tweet it out one day. I scored the 97th percentile of people with terrible personality traits. We're talking about sociopathy, Machiavellianism. You know what's hilarious? I scored in the 97th percentile for negative personality traits, like psychopathy, but the 50th for greed, which almost makes having those other terrible personality traits worse. Josh Allen is the polar opposite. He's we're all in this kind of a guy. And it's dragged everybody along. And there are going to be guys who don't buy in. There's going to be guys who can't be a part of that. If James Cook is one of them, I don't begrudge him, but I will allow him to peerless price his way out of Buffalo if that's what he wants to do. But I think that Brandon Beane is very shrewd, and I don't foresee him letting this go. I don't foresee Brandon Beane just, okay, fine, you want to walk, I'll cut you. Or, Chris, when you say a trade, I think that you're overvaluing James Cook. I think that
we're having a hell of a time in the comments.
I know,
about the James Cook thing, but there's a
on it.
Well,
whose comment was your favorite?
Well, I was just going to, you read through the comments. I'm just going to say that we've seen him as a GM. He's drafted Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, James Cook, Ray Davis. I think he's in this mindset that he's always going to have his running back on a rookie deal.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. So that I would not be surprised if James Cook gets traded to get a trade up in like the second or third round, because you're not getting a first for James Cook. You could at least get a second or a third.
Spin does bring up an interesting comment, and while I'm here on my kind of diatribe about culture in this, running backs typically only get one bite at the apple when it comes to getting paid. So again, I don't begrudge James Cook not foregoing his opportunity to trade. Like, he thinks he has leverage. If I blame anybody for this, I look at the agent and I say, you needed to have a conversation with your player and help him understand the GM he was doing business with. Because first of all, this isn't how Brandon Beane negotiates. Second of all, yes, you're trying to maximize your value. There's probably a better way to go about it than go out into public and drag. Guys, I want to underscore something from you about how painfully private the Bills keep things. Most football teams, if you Google it right now, there's at least 4 or 5 different players listed that they've had a top 30 draft visit with. At least 5. Some teams already have 10 to 15 players listed that everybody knows that team had a top 30 visit with. Do you know how many the Bills have out there in public, Chris?
Not a lot.
One. Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver from Texas.
Somebody saw him at Russell's.
And it's only because his agent put it out there. If it wasn't for Isaiah Bond's agent, nobody would know that the Bills had had a top 30 visit with anybody. Now, do you believe that Brandon Beane is sitting on his hands right now and just not interviewing prospects? Or do you believe that this building is watertight like a submarine for the most part? I've got a friend that I work with who told me he's got a friend who works very close, very close in the building. And he asked him, he goes, he asked him one time, hey, have you ever heard anything that you could like make money off of? Or have you heard about rumors that you could like spill the beans with? And he goes, oh yeah. And he goes, well, why don't you? Because I love this place and I love what it is. And I would never do that because it would fuck up the dynamic here internally.
We're making fun of your potato chip choices.
What are my potato chip choices?
Whenever I come to your house for an away game, you never have like Lay's or Ruffles. You have the poorest chip brand, like a Clancy.
Well, first of all, there are no potato chips, quote unquote, because I don't eat anything that's fried like that. I don't like standard potato chips. I eat tortilla chips.
Yeah, you also have those Clancy tortillas.
Clancy brands, 100%. Yeah. Now, when I talk about potato chips, if you find those in my house, I didn't put them there. My wife didn't put them there because we don't eat potato chips, Chris. We're a fairly healthy household.
Was Utz is the
Utz is the pretzel brand.
Well, no, Utz has the best potato chips.
I don't know about that. I know they have good pretzels, and you know what else I know? You know who else though? Snyder. If you don't have Snyder pretzels in your house,
that's a one.
I will spend money on Snyder pretzels.
That's the one thing. Like when you say to me, "All right, give me one memory of your grandparents." Oh, Grandpa Vince always ate a pretzel as a snack. Snyder Hanover hard pretzel, always had those on hand. You open up the cupboard, there's multiple boxes. You go to Painesville, Ohio to visit Grandma Nini and Grandpa Vince.
I like Joseph
Grandpa
Fryer.
Vince
He goes, oh, Clancy.
Snyders.
I like Joe Fryer in the comments. Oh, Clancy is fine. I might be cheap too. It's like, yeah, listen, we're all cheap. You know who else is cheap? Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane is like, I'm not paying Lay's and Ruffles prices for what might just be a bag of Clancy's, guy. I'll offer you 8.
Are you white cheddar?
White cheddar what?
Look in the comments.
Drew strikes me as a white cheddar smart food guy. Smart food? This face strikes you as eating anything with the word smart in it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You're giving way too much credit, Chris. So this is what I'll say. I want to walk you through something, Chris. Here's the number of running backs who have gotten extensions. Let's talk about this before I move on to a different subject, because we've literally gone on about this for about 25 minutes now. In 2024, here were the free agent running back signings. DeAndre Swift to Chicago, 3 years, $24 million. Tony Pollard, Tennessee, 3 years, $21 million. On extensions, Christian McCaffrey got 2 years, 38 with San Francisco, and Ramondre Stevenson got 4 years, $36 million with the Patriots. Did any of those players mean jack shit to their team's fortunes in 2024? No. Okay. Moving on. 2022, there were literally no running back signings. 2022, there were no running back extensions or major free agent signings. Just rookies who got their draft contracts. 2021, the running back extensions that were doled out, Nick Chubb, Cleveland, 3 years, $36 million. Aaron Jones, Green Bay, 4 years, $48 million. Aaron Jones didn't see the end of that contract. Nick Chubb is currently a free agent, still with no job. Guys, it just might legitimately not be worth doing. The league itself is telling you, if you look at the history in front of you, it's never worth paying a running back. Not at all. You draft them, you burn them down, and then you move on. And it sounds disrespectful. Unfortunately, you play a position that's been devalued by the fact that running back play in college got really good. Zone running schemes got really good, but also blocking got better. Offensive linemen got more athletic. And as that happened, you saw the devaluation of the position. I will say this, there was once upon a time when you could go into the draft and get a bunch of wide receivers and be okay with that, when quarterback play had kind of leveled off. Now we've reached a place where quarterback play coming out of college is generally, Chris, who's the last quarterback to come in as a rookie and you go, wow, that guy had a great year. And then he sustains it for another year.
E.J. Manuel.
I still remember when E.J. Manuel
J.P. Lossman
threw a game-winning touchdown pass against the Panthers in a game where Mario Williams had 4 sacks on Cam Newton, and we threw a last-second game-winning touchdown pass to Stevie Johnson, and I thought that E.J. Manuel was the truth. I thought E.J. Manuel was going to be the guy to break the drought and to put all of this quarterback controversy to rest, and he went on to just be Jesus. He just existed, Chris. Like, even if he didn't, we wouldn't have known. So I guess it's just the idea that when you look at the James Cook situation, it's convoluted, but I very much think he misplayed his hand. And I think that if he had done this more privately, when he's dealing with an organization who likes to keep everything behind a curtain, they don't let things leak. When you negotiate in public, all you did was give Brandon Beane, who probably didn't want to give you a fair market value anyway, because he doesn't like to sign running backs, to Chris's earlier point.
Somebody in the comments.
You made him very happy.
Somebody put this in the comments earlier. I forget who it was. I'd have to scroll up and look. How much of this is Dalvin Cook in his ear?
And it's hilarious to think that you're going to follow your brother. How'd that go? How did that fucking go?
He's going to request a trade to the Jets.
You went from being a Viking to a Jet to a nobody at the speed of light. Is that what James Cook wants? I hope he's smarter than that. I hope he's smart enough to recognize that the Bills probably aren't going to do with what Chris just made a bet with me. They're not going to trade you. They're going to help you show up and help you prepare. Help you prepare. And what they're going to do is they're going to say, listen, we're not going to give you what you want. And we're also willing to let you languish. So do you want to come out here and be the best version of you can be, which is what we tell everybody who comes into the building, and let us help you get that free agent contract with the Raiders. Let us help you get that free agent contract with the Broncos. Let us help you become a San Francisco 49er. We don't care.
Yeah, he's only going to be able to go to a team that has a that'll give him his 15 that he wants, but that team is going to have a quarterback on a rookie deal. He's not going to go to an established team and get his money.
Spin. What's with the Jets ending running backs' careers? Delvin Cook, Le'Veon Bell. It's like, hey, maybe those guys were part of it. Maybe those guys weren't that good to begin with. Maybe they were a product of really good offensive lines. Just saying. Just saying. James Cook can follow him if he wants. Now, as we close the door on that, move on to the Chris, I can't believe we've already been doing this for an hour, but I don't give a shit. I'm having fun, and I missed last week. I'm going to keep going. I want to talk about, it's funny because I was going to record an at-home podcast about From the Mouth of Babes, right? My children and I had some interesting Bills conversations this past week. So if you're a season ticket holder for the Buffalo Bills, you get a Bills Bucks card. And on that card is a certain percentage, which decreased this past year, which really fucking rankled me. They knocked our percentage down while raising season ticket prices. But the idea is they give you a percentage of it back on a card that you can use for concessions or at the store or whatever you want to do with it. I always throw it in my glove box and then forget it exists. So with that in mind, I found it this past weekend and I was like, oh shit, it expires. Literally the $75 on this card is going to expire on Monday. Monday, the 31st of March. So I got to get to the Bills store and I got to go buy some stuff. I'm not a team gear guy. I don't buy things. I don't buy jerseys. I don't buy any of that stuff. So I was like, well, let's get some stuff for the kids. Honey, let's get everybody in the truck. It'll be fun. We'll make a Wegmans trip. We'll get lunch out. We'll go to the Bills store. We'll make a day out of it. And I had a really interesting afternoon with my kids at the Bills store, which for those of you who don't know, if you're listening and you've never been there, the Bills store sits right next to Gate 5 where I walk into the stadium every week to go sit in my seats. Literally, there's a bathroom that you can walk into from the outside, go take a leak, and the other door that they keep locked Monday through Friday would get you into the stadium. Chris, true or false? The Bills store bathroom is the secret bathroom that nobody goes to mid-game.
Well, you just let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah. Guys.
That's because drunk people and stairs don't work well.
Yeah.
They can't walk up the stairs to go to the team store bathroom. It's a hidden gem.
Lauren Oubre on the James Cook, before we move on, she has a great point. McDermott hates rookies. He'd love another year to give Cook the ball and showcase him for other teams to sign him. Exactly.
What if he gets injured?
Who gives a shit? That's not Sean McDermott's problem. But he also isn't going to take Sampson or whoever else you might draft in fact, not Sampson because he won't be there. He'll be drafted way earlier than that. He'll take whatever running back we get in the 5th round and go, hey, you and Ray Davis are the future. Shh. Just let's ride this. Because Cook isn't going to have another avenue. I don't see him leaving the team. So we get there. I take my kids to the stadium. We get there. I walk in. I'm trying to buy them both jerseys. I go, look, if I have $75 in my pocket free, I'm going to get you both jerseys because one of them's already almost free.
Screen printed?
No. We're at the Bills store, Chris. This is all legit merch.
Yeah, I know. Screen printed, so it's not sewn on lettering.
Oh, no, sewn on lettering. Yeah, those are Chris. If I can buy 2 of them and get one of them almost for free, you know the children's version is almost $100.
It's insane.
So with that said, my son looked at me and goes, yeah, he goes, Dad, I go, oh, well, we got to get you a new jersey because all your jerseys are too small. You know, you used to be in like 4T, 5T. Now you're youth size. We need to get you a jersey. And he goes, I want a Josh Allen, but I also really want a Steph Diggs. Can I get a new Steph Diggs? And I said, buddy, I hate to tell you, they're not making new Steph Diggs jerseys. He's not here anymore. And he looked at me and he was like, well, he still plays football. And I was like, yeah, he still plays football. And he goes, okay, so I still like him. Steph Diggs is great. I still like him. Can I get a jersey? And I was like, kid, I guarantee you when we go in that Bill store, Chris, shocker, there's no children's Diggs jerseys in the Bill store right now.
But you know what I bet there is? a youth O.J. Simpson jersey.
Here's what I love about it took me having a conversation with my 4-year-old son about Diggs to really appreciate his return to the AFC East. Because when you think about this guy and his career, like he's obviously a diva, but he's talented. He can be a diva. I sometimes do that professionally when I'm like, hey, listen, I'm good at what I fucking do. You all either recognize me or I'll tap dance all over you. So Stefon Diggs forced his way out of Buffalo the same way he forced his way out of Minnesota, and he forced his way out of Texas the same way he forced it, like preemptively before he got injured.
Well, he was on a 1-year deal.
He negotiated.
Yeah.
He asked for that. That didn't just come out of the sky. So then to see how wrong it went for him, and the fact that he signed a big contract with the only team desperate enough and having the money enough to sway him to go there, I almost feel bad for him in a certain way. But then I'm talking to my kid about this, and he's 4. He's literally 4 years old, and he's like, yeah, but Diggs is great. He goes, him and Josh Allen are like, they're friends. They're friends. And I love Steph Diggs. I just love Steph Diggs. He's 4, and he goes, I love him, and I want him to do well. And he goes, I go, buddy, he's not on the Bills. He goes, I know, but I want him to do good. And he can't wrap his head around the fact that we're not making more jerseys just because he's back. Here's what I'll say. Good for Diggs, good for the Patriots. They found their guy, a wide receiver with a pulse. Good for Diggs for getting paid. Good for the Patriots for finding a guy who can give their quarterback a little bit of confidence. Something that you watched him do for Josh Allen when he was young and wet behind the ears. And then also good for the rest of that wide receiver room, who I'm guessing they're going to draft a couple this year in New England. And I wouldn't be shocked if one of them isn't Travis Hunter. To have a guy like Stefon Diggs who can pull them aside and go, this is what it takes to be a star. You want to be good, but to be a star, you got to compete, and you got to be willing to live, eat, sleep, breathe this stuff. They need some injection of culture and life into that franchise. And in that way, the Patriots did well, and I wish everybody over there the best. Brandon Beane is absolutely correct in how he handled that situation. Chris, does it not make you feel vindicated knowing we have a good second-round pick?
Yeah, we do.
For the fact that we don't have that player anymore. But with that said, you don't have to hate the guy. You can still celebrate him, and you can still love the fact that he was here. My son does. And after that conversation, I was part of the camp that was like, I don't care where this guy goes. I hope wherever he goes, he sucks, because the petty, terrible part of me that is a sports fan.
Yeah, your son hasn't learned that yet.
Yeah, he's not dead inside yet. And it was refreshing to have that conversation with him where he's like, no, Steph was so fun. He literally said to me, Chris, he goes, Steph Diggs caught lots of touchdowns. And we sang. He goes, we danced. And I just hope that he does good for that team. That team, because he doesn't know the Patriots. He doesn't know to hate them yet. And I was like, you know what, kid? You're probably right. You're probably right. I'll keep an eye out for a cheap discount Steph Diggs jersey for you. Just because it means that much to him, that he wants to wear an Allen jersey and also that jersey because he loves them both as players. We as fans can stop the acrimony and just put it aside and just respect the fact that the guy did what he did for us. We had a good run. It ended. Chris, we came out on the better end of it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
And you always do when you have players who are trying to force their way off a team. You always come out on the better end because the team will last longer than that player. Eventually, that player will fail, but you shouldn't celebrate that failure. Like, unless they do something egregious, you shouldn't celebrate that. You should still look back at the good days you had. I envision a day when Steph Diggs is here leading the charge in the new stadium.
Yeah, that'll be a thing.
After he retires, they're going to have Stefon Diggs leading the charge out of the tunnel. And it's going to be a hell of a thing. And they're going to hug, and it's going to be fun. Maybe Josh Allen will be seen dapping him up in the tunnel. Like, it's going to be a thing. But for now, this is where we live. I just think that the whole Diggs conjecture was overblown, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy he found I call it a resting place, because he's old enough that'll probably be the last big contract he signs. But he found a spot. Now I'm going through here, and then Holland sticks his foot in Diggs' face. Hollins and Diggs being on that team, it's interesting. Like, I like that. I'm just going through the comments here now, Chris, as you showed up here. Diggs hustled the hell out of money from the Bills, Vikings, Houston, and Pats. You think he hustled them? I don't think he did. I think he gave everything he had. He's a competitor. The dude, when he plays, is full of piss and vinegar, and he's definitely not shy. He's not meek. And he will stick his fan in the face, which is what you need from football players.
Yeah, Diggs to New England, it's the same thing as Diggs coming here. You had 1 year of Josh Allen, then we got Diggs. You had 1 year of Drake May, and now they get him a legit 1, probably 2, because he's on the back end of his career. And I think it's only going to help Drake May's growth.
Oh, Lauren, don't buy a jersey. I have a kid's Dig jersey that's in perfect condition that I'll send to.
Yeah, Lauren, bring it to a tailgate and I'll set it on fire immediately.
You will not. I'll scalp that stupid hair off the top of your head like this was Last of the Mohicans. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say that. Anyway, Lauren, let's talk. I'll DM you later. Now that sounds bad. My wife's going to listen back to this and go, see, told you.
She doesn't listen to this.
No, she doesn't. I'm conflating this. My wife doesn't listen to this. She's like, you're an idiot here in the house for long enough every day. I don't need to hear it. I also think it's interesting as we close the show and spin, hey, as soon as a franchise paid Diggs, he forced his way off that team. Not as soon. He broke a lot of records here for receiving. And he did a lot of great things, Spin. And I think that you're being a little cynical. I think that you are embracing what is rejection culture. I think that you, like, when you say the Vikings paid him and he forced his way out, the Bills paid him and he forced his way out, what you're failing to wrap your hands around is the idea of who this person was from the get-go. He had an ego. Sure. Like, look, give me the camera. He had an ego. He's always had an ego. That's who he is. That's who every great wide receiver and every great quarterback has ever been. If you don't think Josh Allen has an ego, he absolutely does. He manages to keep it between the numbers. What I will say is, Stefon Diggs played his ass off and tried to earn every single cent of that contract, not because he felt like he owed it to him. Like what? $137 million
through 20 and plus whatever he's guaranteed from the Patriots.
So the idea is, Spin, this guy is getting paid what he's getting paid because he's a guy who you identify as a guy who will earn every single cent of that paycheck. He's never going to fight you on it. He's never going to have to work for it. It's him in his DNA to work for it. He's going to grind and he's going to kill himself out there. And what he's going to do is he's going to show up to a cultureless football team like the New England Patriots, and he's going to show their young players what it is to be an upper echelon professional in the NFL, even at his age. And that's it. So you can be mad at him, you can hate him, but you know what? This is also a guy who his attitude drove him. Just because you gave him a paycheck, it never changed him. He was that guy. The money never changed him. Unfortunately, that's not a good thing. He was always a combative, particular guy who was going to pressure everyone around him to be better, good or bad, constructively or destructively. That's
Diggs might, and with that 137 plus his guarantees from the Patriots, he might be the Kirk Cousins of wide receivers. Because Kirk Cousins is, a 10 to 15 ranked quarterback, but then you look his career earnings and you go, what the fuck? Diggs never
137 for Diggs is impressive.
That's impressive for why he might be
Hugo Carmona with a killer comment. Unfortunately, that ego couldn't catch one of those 2 passes against the Chiefs.
I love it.
And this is why it's the pettiest podcast, because I celebrate that. That's fucking hilarious. Now, another thing that came out of my trip to the stadium store with my kids. You know, you park, Chris. Now, we get the benefit of where our tailgate is in Doc's lot.
Are we going to park there again?
Don't know. It's up in the air. We're going to see. We will see. But what I do know is that we got to watch the stadium construction happen. That building literally borders, what's it, Hammer's Lot? The fence runs right along Hammer's Lot there.
Yeah, our dock slot is right next to the Hammers.
So we got to watch slowly but surely as that building came together over the course of the 2024 season. You know, you watched them put up the poles and then they built off of it. And all of a sudden you start to see the framework of a stadium. And then they're siding it and they're roofing it. Well, when I showed up there with my kids and I was showing them, like, because they're into construction vehicles, like every 2 through 5-year-old is, I go, guys, look, there's a loader. There's a dump truck. There's this, there's that. And then they see the structure itself and they're like, wow, that's so big. And I go, yeah, there's guys in there who go in there and they work every day building this building to make it a giant sports stadium. And it's going to be awesome. And it's going to have all these amenities. And it's going to have all this cool stuff. And then my son, Tommy, tried to run, like he ran to the gate because he remembers going to the blue and red scrimmage with me. And he wanted to go in. And he was like, football's in there. And he's 2, going to be 3 this weekend. And I was like, no, bud, no, there's no football going on. You know, Dad's seats are right on the other side of this thing, but there's no football going on today. And then he looked at me, Chris, and he was like, we can't go in. And I was like, no, you can't go in, bud. And then it dawned on me. The next time they walk into that stadium will be the last time they walk into that stadium. Because it was announced at the ownership meeting this week that the Buffalo Bills stadium is set for demolition. They've already scheduled it. Early 2027.
March 2027.
That's a hell of a thing, isn't it? Like,
we'll do a live show.
Oh my God. From the lot. I'll take that day off and we'll be down there in the lot when they start, when the dynamite goes off. I want to be there to see it. I have so much of my life wrapped up in that building, and it makes me misty-eyed thinking about it. The idea that you're going to destroy Ralph Wilson Stadium and you're going to erect some structure that's gorgeous and it's all shiny and it's new and it's got all these modern amenities, but it's not Ralph Wilson Stadium. Like, I still call it Ralph Wilson Stadium. I refuse to call it Highmark? That's what it's called?
I always refer to it as Rich Stadium.
Rich Stadium, see? And that's throwback stuff to our parents. This is what like when Pete Gwaley went on during the owners' meetings and talked about the plan to demolish Ralph Wilson Stadium in early 2027. It honestly, it caught my breath for a minute. I've had players traded from this team. I remember watching Jim Kelly get his leg broke against the Jacksonville Jaguars and carted off the field, knowing that it was the last time I'd ever see Jim Kelly in a Bills uniform. And yet that didn't stick in my chest. It didn't stick in my craw. It didn't take my breath the way that hearing that 2027, that building is no longer going to exist. They're just going to demolish it because it's so soon. It's so fast. And I think about how much of my life and how many formative experiences have been wrapped up in that, in that building, in the parking lot surrounding it, over there in the mud lot, a decade of tailgating, a decade plus of tailgates. I think about this. My friend Potter, I was one of his best men in his wedding. I'm the godfather to his child. He and I had our first fist fight in that parking lot. Chris, you were there to see it. Browns game? Browns game you brought Shannon to?
Don't remember.
Yeah. He and I had our first fist fight of our entire friendship.
It's overshadowed because you left at halftime of that game, and that was the first time
Because it was 3-6.
Yeah.
It was 3-6, and Johnny Manziel got put in the game. 3-6, and I was like, I've been through the Browns Bills experience where the game ends 3-6. You're not getting me again. I'm going to the truck where there's beer, and I fucking left the stadium, and I went.
Yeah,
and
that was
found
my
friend.
that was my first time of watching a game with you. I bought tickets directly behind you, and anybody in the comments, let us know what any memory that you have of Ralph Wilson as Drew discusses punching Potter.
Everybody watching this, I want to know what's your favorite experience, right? Your favorite experience from Ralph Wilson Stadium.
Who was that?
Put them all in the comments. We'll read through them now, but the best comment on this video, both on YouTube after the fact and here in the live chat, best one, I'll send you some Q42 stuff because this is something that is this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart.
Spin is excluded from...
Spin is excluded because he's a previous winner. Here's the thing.
Yeah, like who was at that preseason game where Sims threw that backward pass? That's a hell of a memory if you went to preseason games.
Here's my thing. Like there's stuff like I remember breaking up with my girlfriend, Brittany, the one that I met you through. Oh, I can't believe I said her name out loud. I usually just refer to her as my ex. That's bad. I'd say edit
There's
it.
a time that we liked whores.
I'd say okay. All right. Here's what I'll say. I remember breaking up with my girlfriend in the middle of the Bills-Patriots win in 2011. Ryan Fitzpatrick leading the comeback. And dumping that girl and just the freedom I felt. And then that day and the aura of the stadium and the aftermath of that. And then wanting more of that. So then I bought season tickets. And just the good and the bad, the cold days, the brutal days, the people I've met at the tailgates, just the community that's been built around this thing. It's soul crushing to think that that's just going to disappear. And that structure is just going to get erased and eventually paved over. And Chris, one day I'm just going to be another cranky old fuck standing in the middle of a parking lot trying to tell my 20-year-old kid, hey, you know, I used to sit here and watch I sat here and watched Josh Allen throw the perfect playoff game. And they're going to go, right, Dad, we understand. We understand. We've already won. He won us 2 Super Bowls. You don't have to keep talking about that. I'm like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand how perfect that game was. It was 0 degrees. And they're going to go, yeah, Dad, we've heard this a million times. That building contains memories for everybody. And it's shocking to me that there's already a timetable that short. Chris, we have less than 2 years in this building.
I like that Super Mexican in the comments. I've seen that photo he's talking about used in a tweet related to the Bills getting a Hallmark movie. Just hand down pants, getting a full handful of ass. Yeah, Hallmark movie, a Bills story.
Awesome. Lauren Oubre, I think I was 8 when my dad took me to my first game. He was with a ton of his buddies, and I was the only kid at the group, but he was so excited. See, exactly, Lauren. It's that thing. And so that's what I feel when it comes to like this year's preseason games. And I go, I have to take my kids because I want them to experience what it's like. I want you to see a touchdown and hear the shout song and just get that because you're too young to appreciate it now, but someday it's going to make a difference. You're going to feel that the way I felt it.
So you're going to take Jack, Tommy, and Larissa, make it a family affair to Kids Day?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jack owes me the price of that fucking ticket.
We'll take it out of his piggy bank.
Yeah.
What is it? His 53B, his 503B account.
Yes.
Kid, we're taking you to school. We're teaching you about loyalty and about love of sports. No, guys, it's a hell of a thing. I do want to hear.
Dude, Roy Collins is 61. He's never been to a game. Like I said it earlier in the comments to Ryan Tongan, Minnesota never been to a game. This is the last year. You got to come to a game.
Roy, what are you doing?
Roy, Ryan Tongan.
Get out here.
Yeah, get out here. Come to a game.
Get out here. Reach out to us. We'll hook it up. Trust me. I do.
We have 2 extra tickets. So, if you want to come see Carolina play or Tampa Bay or the Jets.
I have 2 open tickets to every game. It's going to be an interesting year.
My mom wants to come to a game this year.
Listen, your mom can sit next to me anytime. That's a throwback joke. I used to hit on Chris's mom all the time before I got married. I even used to joke about how if I ever went down to Atlanta, Chris was like, "Oh, we're gonna go to see the opening of the Bills game in Atlanta's stadium the year it opened. We should have been there. We weren't. It was an amazing win by the Buffalo Bills." And I kept joking about how I was gonna walk around to your kitchen just shirtless and pretend it was an accident, like Chris Farley and Tommy Boy. Which way to the gym?
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. Ralph Wilson went to Bill's first Monday Night Football game.
It's guys.
OJ hit 1,000 yards and 0 murders in that game.
I like this super Mexican. I got my truck stuck at the mud lot and locked my tickets inside after driving 3 hours to see the Packers play by myself, and just happened to see that guy in the Hallmark ad Chris is talking about. It's awesome.
Yeah, Kyle Washington from Las Vegas came to their Green Bay Sunday night game.
Yep.
Kyle, you got to come back out. It's the last year of the Ralph.
We're going
to say this all season long on this show leading up to September. If you haven't been to a game at the Ralph, you got to come. This is the last season. You got to do it.
And here's what I'll say. Like that day, Kyle Washington, I have a photo of you with John Fina's it was the Bills' 4th AFC Championship appearance. He let you wear his ring at our tailgate. These are the things that go on at a Rock Pile Report tailgate. Show up, have fun, have your version of fun. Nobody's here to judge. I love it. I love you guys. And I'm scared for the future. I'm optimistic about what the new stadium will be. I'm nervous, Chris, that they won't do what the Odd did and sell off the seats and sell off chunks of the stadium before they demolish it.
Let me ask you this. Last game, whether it's a playoff game or a regular season game, can you smuggle in a Ryobi drill and we just unhook the bleacher from 200 right there? And Tony won't even stop us. That's for damn sure.
Chris, I don't think they can. I don't think they know what to do. No. Listen, I've got an idea, but I can't put it out here. Otherwise, they'll find out. Chris.
Yeah, just like the tent in the dock slot.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck those people. They deserved everything they got. Guys, I'm just reading through this.
It was D'Amato at that Monday night Cowboy game where we had no offensive
Oh, my God,
touchdown.
yes! Made a sign full of cutout players and everything. Obviously, we lost, but that remains one of the best feelings I ever had. Chris D'Amato, I'll tell you this. I was at that game, too.
Didn't you punch a headlight?
No.
Or a side mirror?
My friend punched the taillight out of my car.
Your Altima?
No, my Monte Carlo. He punched out my Monte Carlo taillight because he thought it was somebody else's car, not realizing he was going to have to get in it. But then also, I remember the just acrimony after that game was wild. Guys getting hit with full beer cans. If you had a Cowboys jersey on, someone was going to hit you from the blind side with a full can of beer. But the defining moment of that game aftermath to me was that they didn't have Orchard Abbott shut down. So an SUV full of guys drives down and stops at the light right there on the corner by Abbott. And the guys are out the window waving a TO jersey like a flag. woo, woo, fuck you guys. You're Cowboys fans. And then they stopped at the light. And immediately 2 guys just ran off the sidewalk and started beating that guy through the window. So his friends got out of the car. And then 5 more guys jumped in. So the driver got out of the car and the whole group of them just got mobbed. And it's like, dude, read the room. Just get out of here. Don't brag. Don't stay to gloat. This is a terrible concept. I understand that what the Bills fans are doing right now is not correct. You shouldn't be roughhousing a whole car full of people after a football game because you're upset. Also, you shouldn't be antagonizing an angry crowd when there's a red light right there.
Yeah.
It's one of the defining moments of the drought for me where I go, well, at least we had that. At least the city rose up and got those guys. Now, guys, it's been a hell of a run. Like Joe Fryer, the man will come for you, Drew. The man's always looking for me, Joe. You have no idea. Come to a tailgate. We'll talk about it.
You shouldn't have been talking shit.
Guys, I love this. I love you all. You guys show up here every week for this nonsense. I'm happy to provide it to you. But for tonight, I want you all to reflect on what the Ralph means to you. Tweet it at us at Rockpile Report on Twitter. RockpileReport716@gmail.com. You can email us there. Or just here in the comments, and I'll read them. I just want to know, what does it mean to you, the Ralph disappearing in less than 2 years? And when that thing's a parking lot, what are you going to feel about that? Best response, win yourself some high quality barbecue stuff. Chris, for tonight, what is it? Almost 9:30. We've gone an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I'm shocked you haven't been giving me the wrap it up sign.
I don't have to go to work tomorrow. You do.
Guys, I love this. I love you all. But for tonight, we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your Rock.